Robert knew that the greatest luxury in life was to be a stranger. It was something people could only afford in peacetime, because as soon as war reared its ugly head, everyone turned on the ones they knew the least. To be a foreigner, an alien, was extremely dangerous. "Jimmy, what did I tell you about the trash?" he shouted across the house. His youngest was supposed to pull the trash cans to the curb before bed. It was a pretty mild chore for a 12-year-old. "Sorry, Dad, I'll do it in a second," came the half-hearted promise from the living room. Jimmy was watching TV. Robert knew that in a town like Fox Hollow, he'll never stop being a stranger. He didn't grow up here, and no matter how hard he tried, he could never get rid of his accent. "Now!" he shouted again. Jimmy paused the TV and threw the remote on the couch before stomping to the back door to put on his shoes. "Watch the attitude," said Robert. "Sorry." He didn't really care about the trash. It was just part of playing the role of a parent. To live in this house with the pristine green lawn and the basketball hoop in the driveway was all for show. His wife, his kids, it was all just theater. He looked out the window above the kitchen sink and watched as his son dragged the recycle bin to the sidewalk. He was worried about him. He was too weak, too skinny. In wartime, he wouldn't be worth much. And it wasn't necessarily just war that Robert was worried about. The greatest enemy was hunger. People, once they're hungry enough, start eating each other. He knew that. And they say it's easier to eat a foreigner than a fellow patriot. That you would cook a stranger before an acquaintance, a friend before a family member. Simply put, the less familiar you are, the more delicious you look to someone who's starving. Robert knew that if he didn't play his cards right, one day he would be eaten by his neighbors. The economy will crash, the country will eventually burn, and starvation is always just around the corner. The guy with the accent would be the first to go. That's why he was desperately trying to put some weight on his son. If he was fat, he could always offer him as an alternative. He could bring something to the table, so to speak. "Dad, are you okay?" asked Jimmy. It only took a split second for Robert to suck in his mandibles. Sometimes when he is zoned out, he relaxed too much underneath the human skin, and his elaborate mouthpiece was always the first thing to show. "Of course," he said, as he put his hand over his mouth and pretended to be chewing. "Just having a snack." Jimmy didn't pay much attention. He kicked off his shoes and went back to his cartoon. Robert watched him. He was so skinny. His sister, who was by now all grown up and out of the nest, turned out great. She always had enough meat on her bones to be worth something. But this one was a disappointment. He rubbed his mandibles together. If he was still living at home, with a real family and a real life, she would have understood what this meant. She would have gone out to the streets and returned with the stranger. Or, if she couldn't find one, she would have brought him one of their millions of children. But here he was, stuck in Fox Hollow. He took a bag of chips out of the pantry, poured it into a bowl, and went to the living room. He sat down next to his son on the couch, and casually handed him the snack. "So, what are we watching?"